Okay, let me see if I can even try this. I started out the post, I titled it, "What do you think of A. Jones?" Now, let's make it clear, based on what I've seen so far, you can't even type the guy's name in as a live stream title because TikTok stated when I typed in, "What do you think of?" and I typed his full name out, not A, but his full name out. "What do you think of A. Jones?" I was told that my post contained banned words. So in other words, just simply stating the man's name is a banned word on TikTok. But I want to ask just real quickly, what do you guys think of the guy? If someone comes in the box, understand you are being advised not to say the man's name because TikTok does not even want his name being said. Now, clearly he's being sued for Sandy Hook, and he's made all sorts of controversial statements in regards to September 11th, COVID. I believe he's suggested the Boston Marathon bombing was an FBI training. I mean, he said a hell of a lot of things. He said a hell of a lot of things. But I want, maybe some folks believe it's true. Maybe folks do believe that A. Jones, and do not say his name, because TikTok dinged it as a banned phrase, just saying the man's name. So he will be referred to throughout this broadcast as A. Jones. But I'm curious just to see what my audience, because my audience is primarily MAGA. You know who I prefer talking to. I prefer MAGA generally. But what do you guys think of him? He is a wildly successful talk show host. I mean, his program, iWars, not even going to say that because that may be a banned phrase, but clearly social media does not like this guy. Okay, looking in the comments here, and also thoughts on the Department of Justice indicting two current officers and two former officers in Louisville. SD firefighter, I'm not quite familiar with what you're talking about. I'm assuming it doesn't have anything to do with A. Jones, though, but I'm not aware of what you're talking about. Is all that not freedom of speech, though? Golly free. You are entitled to freedom of speech. It's covered by the First Amendment. However, freedom of speech does not necessarily mean freedom from consequences. You can say whatever the hell you want. But if you're slandering folks and your words are deliberately causing harm on others, which is what they're trying to play out here, is that some of the statements that has been made by A. Jones has led to folks receiving death threats and all sorts of things. That's not covered by the freedom of speech. That's not covered by the First Amendment, rather. Or do you believe it should be? Should you be able to yell fire in a crowded theater, for instance? Should you be able to yell stuff out when you know it is causing other people harm? That's where the issue is. And by the way, it's a difference between freedom of speech and just simply lying on someone. And when you say that the Boston Marathon bombing was an FBI training exercise, you got to be able to prove that. Certainly when you got an audience of millions, you should have to prove that. You shouldn't just be to throw something like that out there knowing that millions of folks are tuning in and believing that. I mean, no evidence. Same thing. A lot of folks believe that September 11th did not go down the way we were told. Okay, if you think there's some questionable things there, feel free to say that, but don't inject what you think absolutely did happen and tell people that without any proof at all. If you want to suggest that some Serbians planted explosives on every level of the World Trade Center and took it down, then you got to prove that. You can't throw some wild shit like that out there with no proof. And that's what we're dealing with here. By the way, folks, tap the screen. Help your boy get up to 5,000 likes. We're talking about A. Jones, and what is your opinion of him? Do you think he's actually trying to help the public out by telling them that what our government is saying is not accurate? Or do you think the guy is just lying for ratings, fame, and money? Which one is it? Is he helping us out by letting us know our government cannot be trusted and they're feeding us a load of bull? Or is he deliberately lying for ratings, fame, and money? It was all opinion on a live event, says Jason Parks. You know, it's not being sold as opinion. I mean, the notion that the Boston Marathon bombing was an FBI training event, it's an opinion based on what? Is that something the FBI normally does, is fake bombings? In regards to training, has there been FBI agents that have come out of the academy and suggested this is how we train? We'll go and, pretend like an event is a terrorist event? It has to be based on something. That's all I'm saying. Jet fuel can melt steel beams. Pete's good vibes. And that's when it comes to September 11th, I'm no engineer. I'm a talking head on TikTok. I don't pretend to know everything. I like talking to MAGA because sometimes I learn shit. Just because I'm a liberal doesn't mean I can't be educated by the right and certainly by MAGA, which is why it's always an honor to talk to all of you folks. However, I always ask for some sort of substantiated proof. Same thing with the election. I watched Mike Lindell's Cyber Symposium. I watched 2,000 Mules a half dozen times. I have to see some evidence on different things. I'm not suggesting that Dinesh D'Souza did not produce some evidence of improprieties in the election. But that's what I'm asking for, is stuff like that. All right, looking at the comments. Someone said I look like Shaquille O'Neal. Okay, minus about 6 inches. I'm 6'6". I think Shaquille's 7'1" or 7'3" or something like that. Democrats are numbskulls. Says Biden smells like farts. I love the name. Is every single Democrat in the country a numbskull? Interesting statement you would make, because Trump is on video telling Oprah Winfrey, quote unquote, I identify as a Democrat. He was one of the wealthiest men in America at that time. Was he a numbskull? President Trump on television, on video, pretty easy to Google, pretty easy to find on YouTube, while he was the most wealthy. And by the way, back then, even black people loved him. Was he a numbskull? Let me know. You said Democrats are numbskulls. I can be at moments. I am actually Tammy. Good evening. Good afternoon, Tammy. Dartmouth University recorded the event as a controlled demolition. NGA Brocoma. Yeah, but Dartmouth is one entity. What about all the other folks that said it was something else? Are we just taking the word of Dartmouth University as opposed to everyone else? I mean, I don't know why the hell my phone's going, but there's a hell of a lot of people out there that have made suggestions about the election. Do we take their word, or do we take one person on the other side? That's all I'm saying. You know damn well they don't have any proof. Rodney, I agree. But I want to ask for it. Is there any harm in asking? Is there any harm in asking? Just like with the election, it is widely believed that it was not held properly. You got literally millions of folks suggesting that it was held in a fraudulent manner, and then even some going to the degree of saying that Trump actually won. Well, is it okay to ask for proof on that? You can't just make a statement without proof. That's what I'm saying. Looking in the comments, Donald Trump literally said he picked his base because they were uneducated and easier to control. Wow. Is that correct? I've heard him say, I love uneducated people. But then again, he said, I love the blacks. And I might have even said, I love the gays, if I'm correct. But Thomas says, Donald Trump literally said he picked his base because they were uneducated and easier to control. Do you have I would love to see a link of that. That is worthy of a further discussion. I have never heard that. Wow. Biden has passed more bipartisan bills than anyone gives him credit for. It's due to the disconnect. Well, yeah, you're not going to, in this particular environment, you're not going to get a lot of folks giving President Biden credit for a lot of stuff. I mean, obviously, we're not dealing with Republicans. You're dealing with MAGA, and they absolutely hate the guy. But there's no shortage of Democrats that are not very pleased with Joe Biden either. So the notion that he's not getting credit for some of his accomplishments, yeah, it kind of makes sense. That's what environment we're currently in right now. Biden is a puppet, says Back in Black, Texas. Good, love your name. But in regards to Biden being a puppet, every single president we get in office, maybe with the exception of Trump, is called a puppet. Every single one. And it just absolutely makes no sense. And I would follow that up by saying, If Biden is a puppet, then quit blaming him for every damn thing. If he has no control over the office, then blame the person controlling the strings. Quit posting, anti-Biden videos and saying anti-Biden shit. He's not in control. He's just a puppet. All right, looking at the comments. Republicans, spelled with a series of K's, are destroying America. Myron Birdsong, elaborate on how Republicans, spelled with a series of consecutive K's, is destroying America. I'd be curious to know that. Biden isn't Biden. Okay, now, James Anderson, if you want to suggest that Biden is going through declining mental health, I've heard many folks on the right suggest he has dementia. You got particularly my beloved MAGA audience suggesting that the guy can't string together two sentences, does not know where he's at most of the time. If that is true, why the hell are so many folks on the right, particularly MAGA, making fun of an elderly person with mental illness? Just understand that you're doing both of these things simultaneously. You're suggesting that we are currently being led by an elderly man with mental illness, and you're poking fun of an elderly man with mental illness simultaneously. If you want to point out that you think he has dementia, you want to point out that you don't think he's within his faculties, you can do that tactfully. When you start deliberately poking fun and insulting an elderly person with mental illness, you do have to realize that does not come across as being professional, does not come across as being tactful. It comes across as being tacky. Understand that, because all of us may one day encounter that. Any of us who live to be a certain age could easily have Alzheimer's, dementia, or a host of other mental illnesses. How does it look to make fun of someone like that? Just suggest that the Democrats remove him from office. Point out things that he's doing wrong, or him having issues getting his mindset together, or having issues stating his words properly. You can point all that out without making fun of the guy. And all of us on TikTok, particularly those who are political savvy, have seen a host of videos making fun of Joe Biden. Period. Making fun of him, not pointing out his mental illnesses, but literally making jokes about it. Let me see here. You can't protect decorum from the poorly educated Trump loves so much. I want to see evidence that President Trump stated that he prefers having a base of people who are not very educated. I have never heard that before. We would love for him to get a mental test, but sadly we can't trust the government. CC Dolphin, perfect statement. I've said this all along. Folks were suggesting that Biden refused to take a cognitive test, and he should do it. And I've said all along, if I was the advisor to the president, I would be just like Adrian in Rocky 3 when it was time for him to fight Mr. T, for you guys who might be old enough. Adrian yelled out, "Rocky, you can't win." In other words, if he takes the cognitive test and he fails, you're going to hear folks on the right, my beloved MAGA audience, see, I told you we elected a damn idiot. If he takes the cognitive test and he passes, it's going to be exactly what CC said. I don't trust the government. So even if he passes the test, then I don't trust the person that administered it, because I want to hear that he failed. Any answer that involves him doing okay on that test, I'm not going to accept that. So at the end of the day, like I said, Rocky, you can't win. They gave him a test that was easy, or it was his own doctor that gave it to him, or somebody else went in there without us knowing and took the test for him. No one is going to believe on the side of the right, the MAGA side, no one's going to accept a passing grade. So why take the test at all? You can't win with the results. I wouldn't take it. It would make no sense at all to take that. I'll give it to you this way. Us on the left complain all the time that Trump never showed his taxes. And what is the argument on the right? You can't win. If you show them your taxes, they're going to come up with ways to scrutinize it. And as you can see, in 2022, 7 years, because he came on the scene in 2015 and announced he was running for president. 7 years later, he still has not released his entire taxes. So he got the message. Biden is getting the message too. You can't believe it because we all see what's going on, says Bam Bam 0770. Well, you can sometimes convince your lying eyes that they're not truthful, even though you see it. My response to that would be, based on what happened in regards to the election, I don't see any evidence that Trump won by a landslide. Yet there's a hell of a lot of MAGA that believes it. I mean, even after watching Dinesh D'Souza half a dozen times and seeing some of the points he made that some fraud may have been committed on in regards to the 2020 election, he didn't produce enough evidence to suggest Trump won by a landslide. That's what Trump is saying. I haven't seen any evidence of that. If you want to talk about ballot harvesting and things like that, did some of that occur? Probably. But Trump winning by a landslide, I haven't seen evidence of that. And keep in mind, Dinesh D'Souza did not put out 2,000 Mules until this spring. Trump announced back in November of 2020 that he had won by a landslide, long before Mike Lindell or Dinesh D'Souza had time to analyze all this evidence, hire folks, geo-tracking. Trump did it on the same night while the votes were still being counted. There's no way he had enough evidence to suggest he won by a landslide. There's no way he should have came out and told the American people that while the votes were still being counted. Even if he thought that was the case, the election has not even been concluded yet. Why are you on television claiming victory? I don't get it. Okay, looking at the comments. 81 million people don't live in 477 counties. Okay, then you can talk about what appears to be improprieties. I can hear all sorts of dead people voting, ballots in rivers, polling places not letting you review them. None of that defends Trump winning by a landslide. That points to a potential for voter fraud. I still am not hearing evidence that the man won by a landslide. None of that suggests that. So where is he getting this from? If you want to point out that folks on the left did things in regards to the election that doesn't look right, but you're going to ignore him announcing that he won by a landslide on election night as not being wrong, then you're biased. There's no way any president, any politician should stand up and announce that they have won an election by a landslide while the election is still being counted. There's just no way that should be acceptable. Crazy how Biden got Mexico to pay $1.5 billion for the border wall. Trump sure did not. That is turning out to be quite interesting. When Trump suggested that Mexico was going to pay for the wall, you even had Saturday Night Live with Alec Baldwin meeting with a mock version of Vicente Fox, former president of Mexico, and him handing him an actual check. And everybody really mocked Trump. We all knew what Trump meant. He didn't mean that Mexico was actually going to write a check and pay for the wall. But fact of the matter is, it looks like President Biden has actually acquired successfully exactly what Trump said he was going to do and failed at. Interesting. Very interesting point. Now, Biden is finishing the wall in Arizona. Yeah, and I saw that on Trevor Noah. Let me go to the box. Did not... what's on your mind?
Are you talking about the same Biden who swore that he was not going to build 1 inch of the wall? That Biden?
That Biden. He went back on his word.
That's the one you're talking about.
That Biden. The same guy he went back on his word. I guess I'd have to ask you, is it normal for politicians to state something and then go back on their word once they're in office?
Not if they're Republicans.
What about, I'm going to drain the swamp?
He pulled the plug. It got clogged somewhere.
Then he didn't succeed. If I tell you I'm a plumber and I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to drain your toilet and I leave out and your toilet's still filled and you ask me what happened, well, I pulled the plug, but something did I actually succeed?
You succeed on giving me a bill.
Exactly. So you paid the bill to drain the swamp, but you did not get actual results.
Well, I say they used the wrong type of plumbing.
They
Hey,
used Trump.
Brittany
Trump was
Griner, Brittany Griner only got 9 years. So see, that's less than they were saying.
poor girl. I don't know what to say about Brittany Griner. What they railroading that broad. I don't know what Biden can do because we are killing under the Biden administration, not Trump. We are killing a hell of a lot of Russians. Joe Biden is killing Russians right and left with all those weapons. So they're pissed off, and she is a political prisoner. Her 9 years, it would not surprise me if she started acquiring charges while serving time. They may make up any damn thing because she's a political prisoner.
Well, and they might.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
you think she actually deserved what she's getting?
I think she deserves something. I think 9 years is extreme, but
Yeah.
it wasn't 10 years. So basically, she's getting time served.
Bro, yeah,
A
because she's
couple years.
already
I can see a couple years.
okay. That's still a lot, but I mean that's way less than 9. But yeah, 'cause she's already been in jail since February, and here it is August. So from
Right.
the second month so she's been in jail 6 months, 7 months already now. So and
Right.
9 years on top of that. So she'll be serving potentially 9 months, 9 years and 7 months. That's damn near 10 years.
Why is it a good thing I'm not in a position of power? Because I call a spade a spade? Is that it? You break the
Well,
law, you do the crime, you do the time.
but that's not the case though. Didn't we have a Marine that went into Mexico and had a firearm in his car, and the entire right wing was fighting to get this guy back? He broke the law. There are plenty of signs. Being an over the road driver, formerly, I used to see the signs all the time warning you against entering Mexico with a firearm. This former U.S. Marine did exactly that, and he got arrested for it. Nobody was on the right was suggest. Well, he violated the law. He should serve the time. No, we fought and got that guy back.
Yeah, but there's a difference between I'm a Marine and somebody saying I hate America. I'm not standing for your anthem. There's a difference.
That ain't got nothing to do with the actual law. So what are you saying? We got him back because he's patriotic?
Well, he was a veteran. He did something for the country out of selfishness. And I can't say Brittany Griner's done anything for America that was selfless. It's all about her. There's
So
a
in other
difference.
words, so your original argument that, hey, you broke the law, you should do the time, is starting to change now.
No, I'm just telling you the difference between the two people.
Yeah, but if you believe if you break the law, you should do the time, you should
And
believe that for
you should.
right, right. What about the other guy that Trump brought home from North Korea? Once again, another guy that broke the law. What about the individual? This is back in the 90s for some of you guys who may not believe. Wasn't he due to get a bunch of lashes? They hit you with a stick or
Yeah.
something.
The guy that
And
got
we
40
voted him
lashes
back.
with a whipper.
Yeah. And he went over there and actually was committing theft. I mean, he actually committed crimes also, and folks are trying to get him back.
Yeah, I don't know about those lashes, man. I think I'd rather spend 9 years in jail. Jeez.
I don't know. 9 years is a long ass time. I damn near give an arm as opposed to spending 9 years in prison. I ain't trying to go to jail for 9 years. Fuck that. So give me the lashes.
I bet you're not flying to Russia with vape pens in your luggage either.
I wouldn't fly to Russia for anything at this point. I mean,
I wouldn't
yeah,
either.
I understand in her case, she was making a substantial amount of income, but when you're talking about Russia or China or North Korea, some of these countries, they go and play ball. The relationships, just like Griner has seen, can change in a heartbeat. So you may go over there and the fan base may be great, things like that. But when you got that type of relationship between the two countries, they may come in your hotel room in the middle of the night and make up any excuse they want to detain you. So I wouldn't have been over there at all.
No, I wouldn't have either. It's a chance you take whenever you go overseas. If you're not with the military and you're over there as a civilian, you're at their mercy, basically.
Yeah. Well, your humble correspondent, yours truly, being candid, I have been arrested by police overseas, but I was in Australia, so it wasn't in one of these adversarial countries. But I know what it's like to have to speak to somebody from the embassy in the United States and all of that. Being a foreigner that gets arrested, somebody made up some false charges against me, and they took the woman's word, arrested me until the investigation was complete. Nothing came out of it, but you're in a foreign country.
Right.
And yeah, you gotta, you have to hire lawyers. It ain't fun. So I know from personal experience that I cannot imagine having that happen in Russia. I just can't imagine it. She's gotta be experiencing a lot of sleepless nights.
No, there's no doubt about it. But Russia, of the big ones, you don't screw around in. You don't screw around in the Middle East. You don't screw around in Russia, and you don't screw around in China.
Well, I will tell you,
That's a given.
when I used to fly internationally out of Australia, they used to have huge signs because a lot of Australians tour Asia, like the Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand. A lot of them go over to those countries, and they get huge because you can get the death penalty over there for drugs. It's
Right.
considerably more strict. You think 10 years is bad. In some of those Asian countries, they will execute you for drug possession. So they said these huge signs telling you don't take drugs. Do not expect Australian law to apply to you when you get to these countries. We may not get your ass back. And there are Australian citizens that are in these countries that you see them on, 60 Minutes Australia. They have their own TV show and things like that. And yeah, they do get caught up in that. So when you're over in another country, playing games with the law is very challenging.
No, I did 20 years in the military, and probably the sketchiest country I went to was Panama.
Really?
I
Wow.
went, I remember visiting a tomb. They have a tomb there of Omar Torrijos. We had at that time, we had a joint U.S. Panamanian base. When you came up to the gate, there was a Panamanian gate guard, there was an American gate guard. It was a joint base. And there was a tomb, a crypt or a mausoleum that Omar Torrijos was buried in, and it had a glass front door, so you could actually see his coffin laying in state inside this tomb. And I wanted to go up and see it, me and my buddy. And there was an L-shaped walkway to get up to it. You walked perpendicular to it, and then you made a right turn and you walked up to it. And there was a podium with a guard standing there. And me and my buddy were walking up there to look at it, and the guard stepped between us and the podium. And we're like, oh, we can't take a picture. So we put our camera down, and they speak Spanish. So we couldn't understand what he was saying. And we kept walking forward, and he pointed his gun at us.
Damn.
And we're like, boy, we're screwing up something. And a guy walks up to us, and he says, no, what you don't understand is you can go up there and view it, and you can photograph it, but you have to have an escort. There has to be a Panamanian person with you. So he took us across the street to the Militar Policia, their military police. When we walked in the door, there was 4 old Panamanian cops sitting behind the desk. There was a tripod-mounted submachine gun on the counter. When you walked in the door, there was a machine gun pointed at the door, sitting on the counter.
All that to see a coffin?
Well, no, that's the police station. And he talked to them, and they gave him permission to be our escort. And he came up and he talked to the guard, and we were allowed there to walk up to it and look at it. But I mean, now that's some sketchy crap.
Yeah, that's
some guy lowering a machine gun at you.
Yeah, that's fucked up. But look, I gotta move it on, man. Appreciate you coming through. Absolutely a pleasure. Let me go back to the box. We're actually asking a sidetrack. What do you think of A. Jones? He runs the Info W, and I'm talking in riddles here because I typed in his actual name for the title of this program. What do you think of A. Jones? And by typing his full name in, TikTok stated that I was typing in a banned word. So A. Jones, the host of this program, his name on TikTok is banned. So just want to let you guys know, for you folks coming in the box, do not say his full name. Do not say his full name. They actually consider that a banned phrase. But I want to know what you guys think of him, and we'll go right to the box. Real quick here. DJ Fly Guy. DJ Fly Guy, good afternoon there. What do you think of this guy? Somebody come up. Hey, what do you think of Jones? DJ. Okay. Apparently he must have stepped away from the device or something. Who is A. Jones? He's known as a conspiracy theorist. He is currently all over television right now being tried for his statements in regards to the victims at Sandy Hook. If that doesn't tell you enough to make you realize who he is, then you're probably out of the loop. But we're talking about this guy, and I want to know, what do you guys think? Somebody said he's a POS. And make no mistake about it, we are talking about children being slain in a school mass casualty event. And Mr. Jones suggesting that, for the most part, it was all made up. I think he was suggesting that the children, the victims, did not even exist, or that the parents were part of the deep state, or something of that nature. Shump2243 says Jones is a smart guy. Well, he's deaf. His ratings, his following would absolutely suggest that he's very intelligent. But you can be smart and manipulative, dishonest, conniving simultaneously. So what do you think of this guy? F him unless he has proof, says System Down Forever. Love the name, System Down Forever. So F him unless he has proof. And he is now announcing at his trial, or whatever the hell that is, that Sandy Hook really happened. Years later. Sandy Hook happened in 2012. So we're talking 10 years later. These parents of those children, not only did they lose their children, but because of Jones, they're suggesting that they've received death threats, had to move, a host of other issues. What do you think? All right. Everyone wants his phone records, including potentially DJ. He might go to jail for lying under oath. Yeah, that's possible.
Hey, bud, what's going on, man?
Not much. What do you think of Jones?
I thought he was a funny character. I posted a video on my page a long time ago. I think he's one of those characters like the guy from Fox News that went and his lawyer told the judge, said, if you take this guy serious, then you the fool.
You talking about Carlson? You talking about Tucker Carlson?
Yeah, Tucker Carlson. He went and his lawyer actually got him off, saying he was an
You okay? I don't. Breaking up real bad there. They got his phone records accidentally through his lawyer by mistake. Ha ha, God is real. Gotcha. So do you think he will go down for perjury, lying under oath? It does appear as if he is guilty of that. But, and by the way, he was caught on record in regards to those text messages you guys were talking about, his phone being released. Not only did he say some very horrible things about the jury, suggesting that they're blue collar, uneducated, and things like that. He even apparently ridiculed the judge in that case. Now, it's probably not a good idea to do that, period. But to do it while your case is actually in process and no one has rendered a decision yet is probably self-deprecating. It probably is not in your best interest. He actually is caught doing this stuff while the trial is still going on. Now, most of the talking heads on cable news networks and things like that are actually suggesting that their request for $150 million in defamation from Alex Jones is not enough. I've seen lawyers suggest they should ask for $1 billion, mainly because of the reach of Jones' audience. I mean, he has global exposure, and the length of time it went on, and the amount of issues the victims faced. I mean, if folks are calling you and talking about taking your life, and you got to move and things like that, that is pretty harsh. And also keep in mind the text messages that came out revealed that the guy made over $800 million in a single day. So 150 million actually might be not that bad for somebody like Jones to have to pay. He may actually have the money sitting around somewhere. Okay, DJ Fly Guy, we're going to try it again. You got a lot of... You were breaking up pretty bad. Fly Guy, can you hear me?
Yeah. Is it still doing the same thing?
Yeah, you still breaking up pretty rough. All right, I'm going to have to drop you. You're still quite choppy. Yeah, $800,000 mark time. $800,000 in a single day. Where is that? Does the Jones audience, his audience, really have that kind of money? Shit, I can't even get a fucking Mexican hat with a mustache. Audience, I got a lot of cheapskates watching. Well, I am a liberal talking to a bunch of MAGA. I can't even get one damn mustache. 800,000 in one day? What the hell? Is the Jones audience? Are they sitting on all of that kind of money? Really? 800,000 in one day. And oh shit, I got a mustache. Yeah. God damn it. That don't happen much. Appreciate that. All right. $800,000 in one day. How does that happen? What the hell? Who is donating that? And with no proof, no evidence in most of the cases. How do you make that happen? Just get on here and just tell lies all day? Would I be more successful? 800,000 in one day. Damn. Mark time. Let's see what's... They don't deserve all that money because someone said something. Well,
I mean, what?
real quick, hang on, Mark
Yeah,
time.
you go ahead.
Hang on, Mark time. Will said they don't deserve all that money just because someone said something they don't agree with. What about the notion that what he said has led to folks contacting him constantly, threatening to kill them? What about the notion that he said that their deceased children never existed? I mean, there's a lot more to him just saying something.
Yeah.
Mark Tan, what's up?
Oh no, nothing. I'm gonna keep going if you don't mind. This is all his fault. He did not turn over documents. He tried to delay every time. He put himself in this situation. He picked his lawyer, the lawyer who accidentally sent his entire cell phone's worth of communication to the opposing attorney. Like, this level of stupidity can't happen in Law and Order episodes, because they would say no lawyer would actually do this stuff. He treats people like garbage. He runs his mouth. He comes up with every conspiracy under the book. And hate speech might be protected free speech, but at a certain point, you can lie so much about somebody. You can defame them. He said that they're murdered children, that they're babies, that it didn't happen. And so, yes, Alex Jones deserves everything that is coming to him. I love how it's fallen apart.
Wait a minute. Wait.
Yeah.
Do not say his whole name, because TikTok, I tried to type it, and TikTok referred to it as a banned phrase. So don't say his whole name.
Oh, really? Okay. I call him the human bratwurst.
It's that bad.
Can I say human bratwurst?
You can say that, whatever that is. You can say it, but don't say his whole name.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, man, it's a nightmare, and it's kind of, I mean, it really is just like he is what everyone wants Hunter Biden to be. He's this big mess of a person who just drives an entire $800,000 empire, $800,000 a day at his peak, no longer. And he definitely doesn't rake that in it now, but he deserves to have his pockets taken for every cent. It's a civil case. He has several other civil cases coming. If it turns criminal, fine. That's kind of how I feel about Trump. If you did the real estate fraud enough to bankrupt your own company, you deserved it. You don't have to go to jail.
I still feel somewhat confident that Trump is not going to be I don't think he's going to be convicted at this point. I do believe the Department of Justice is going to go after him criminally, but I'm
Sure.
not. I don't fall under the category of thinking he'll be convicted. I think the end goal is to simply prevent him from running again. Putting him behind bars. I've said it before. I think it's unsafe for the country. It is incredibly divisive, taking division to a step further. So I don't think that will happen, but I think the goal is to stop him from running again. And I do believe the Department of Justice will ultimately do that.
Sure. If I could play devil's advocate, I might say I might think you're right. I might not think that I will ever see DJT in handcuffs, and but you could also say that it is divisive to not give someone their comeuppance. For someone who has done enough things, like hired enough incompetent lawyers, done enough real estate fraud or tax fraud or hidden stuff or done shady deals or paid his own family or violated the Hatch Act or this, that, and the other things. Like at a certain point, there's just so many civil cases that the wall is going to break, that something is going to get through. Find me 11,000 votes in Georgia, something. That he can't run forever.
I
I
think his political misdoing, you can probably spin him enough to keep him out. But the tax fraud stuff,
exactly.
I believe that's legitimate. Yeah, I definitely believe the tax fraud stuff is probably even easier to prove.
It's easier
than anything he's done as a politician. Yeah,
right.
I believe they'll have an easier time with that.
He's not going to get strung up for treason, and then he might not even be able to get pinned with seditious conspiracy like all of the underlings were. But that's not how mob boss cases work. You work your way from the bottom up. You hit the underlings, then the lieutenants, then the generals, and his lawyers are already being pulled into grand juries. Like that, there's enough people when I know Donald Trump believes in loyalty, but the second somebody isn't good for him anymore, they're burned, right? They're gone.
Yeah.
It could be an attorney general.
Here's the difference, though. When you talk about underlings, if you were trying to convict John Gotti or someone like that, and you brought their underlings into court and they were testifying against John Gotti, society would take their testimony as possibly legit in terms of convicting John Gotti. With Trump, any of his underlings that step up and testify under oath, a large portion of the country is just going to keep dismissing all of the testimony from those underlings as being a conspiracy. Yeah, they just were bought and paid for by the FBI or something like that. If you testify against Trump, you're a traitor. You're not believable.
Look at the bottom comment. I hope they give Biden a trial without defense. Like, that's just your feelings talking. That's your ego. And what you're talking about is like you're never going to be able to reach 50% of the audience that currently is watching Newsmax all day, every day. No, those people you're not convincing those people, and it's not anyone's job to convince those people. What you need to look to is like what happened in Kansas with the abortion vote, which is that there not only are there more Republicans in Kansas than there are Democrats, there are more independents in Kansas than there are Democrats. And so, but they got walloped. It was like a almost double the number of votes said no, we are keeping abortion, and in a red state. And so essentially what that means and what that says to me is that there are people out there who have enough common sense, who aren't the let's impeach Biden on the first day, and it doesn't matter for what. They're just following those statements like America first. That doesn't, I know we've talked about this, but it's like that's not a policy. It's a banner that you run behind. And so
I mentioned this last night when I was talking with the audience that I believe Trump has done a few things that would make me question the notion if everything about him is America first. He's done things that, in my opinion, is not picking the Russian intelligence agencies over our own. To me, doesn't fit America first. But I gotta move it on, man. You know what happens. So appreciate you. I catch you on the next one.
Yep. Peace.
All right. Always welcome back. Okay. The comments here, and a couple of folks mentioned the notion that you don't support, you don't think the FBI can't be corrupt, do you? And that's true. The FBI has a history of being corrupt and bias, particularly under former President Hoover or whatever his name was. Was it Herbert Hoover? I'm about to say Larry Hoover. Herbert Hoover. So, yeah, the FBI is not like an angel organization. However, the difference here is the fact that during the time, in regards to President Trump at least, during most of its time, when MAGA is suggesting that the FBI is corrupt, you have to ask, well, who was in charge of the FBI? And the actual answer is Trump. You know, African Americans, we claim that the police are corrupt. We claim that the feds are corrupt all the time, but we're not in charge of the damn FBI. You're the president of the country. And yeah, J. Edgar Hoover, that's who I'm thinking about. J. Edgar Hoover. Yeah, but you're in charge of the country. It's your FBI. You can actually fire and appoint a new head of the FBI. And you're suggesting that your own FBI is corrupt. Remember, when Trump got elected, he promised to appoint the best and brightest. But now he wants us to believe that his FBI was corrupt. Then what happened to your best and brightest appointments? Same thing with Attorney General Barr. You appointed this guy. And now you're suggesting he's treasonous, he's a traitor, and he's a rhino. He didn't have a job until you gave it to him. So what happened to the best and brightest? And that falls along the line of a host of Trump appointees. I mean, almost all of Trump appointees, if you talk to MAGA, they're corrupt. They didn't have a job until he gave it to them. Scaramucci and Ambassador Bolton. These people were hired by him. But somehow you're going to say that they're corrupt and they're treasonous. At some point, my only question to you, even if you truly believe that, even if they truly are treasonous and rhinos, at what point do you hold the guy who is giving all these rhinos their job accountable? Now, make no mistake about it, based on Trump's actions, if he is reelected in 2024, the first question that comes to mind is, has he learned his lesson in regards to not appointing the best and brightest? And I submit to you, Dr. Oz, MAGA was overwhelmingly against appointing, or not appointing, but supporting Dr. Oz for Senate in the state of Pennsylvania. I cannot think of the woman's name, but overwhelmingly MAGA was in favor of this woman. Trump went with Dr. Oz. So he is still, to some degree, appointing people that does not appear to be in his best interest. If Dr. Oz wrote a tell-all book that was anti-Trump, would that surprise anyone? He just supported Dr. Oz for Senate. So Kathy Barnett, that's who it was. He's still doing this. He is still appointing people that I could easily see most MAGA suggesting are treasonous and traitors. He's still doing it. One man does not run the country, not in the United States, not in a democracy or whatever you want to call it that we have. Our country is not ran by one guy. Trump would be a very effective leader as a dictator. But in a country where you got to work with the Senate, you have to work with Congress, you have to listen to the Supreme Court, et cetera, you got to appoint decent people to these jobs because they can make decisions that you don't agree with and you may not be able to do nothing about. His appointees are horrible. If you listen to MAGA, not a liberal, if you listen to MAGA, Trump's appointees are all rhinos and treasonous and traitors. Okay. We do not live in a democracy. We live in a republic. Okay, whatever we live in, that doesn't take away from Trump's appointees. The only Jamie. Good evening.
What's
Good
happening?
afternoon.
Man,
Nothing at all.
yeah, you hit me with about 4 or 5 different points. I should start writing this stuff down before I get in the box over here. Look, the first thing I wanted to tell you was Alex Jones is only worth about $5 million.
Don't say your name.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do not
I'm sorry.
say his full name.
AJ is only worth about $5 million. I don't know how they're going to get this much money out of him. If you do a quick
Where do you get that from?
Quick Google search tells you exactly what he's worth.
You really believe somebody that has an audience like that is only worth $5 million?
Well, because he's had all these crazy dealings where he lost a bunch of money. But I mean, those aren't exact you know, let's say he's worth 10 times that. Even let's say the numbers you can get on the Google are that far off. 10 times, 50 million. He's still not worth the 100 plus they're asking of him. Or they just want to bury this guy under the jail. Is the financially is more what I'm getting at, I guess. And it's
Well,
funny because
perhaps.
he's one of them guys I've been watching. Him for, man, it's hard not to say his name, right? So I've been watching him since he had a show. Like, I always like watching the radical stuff, even though I'm on the other side of the aisle. Like, I remember watching Tucker when he was on CNN because I thought it was hilarious. Like, I thought this was like supposed to be a caricature of what that side was supposed to be like, and he made the same. Well, I guess in Tucker's case, it wasn't a mistake because he got even richer doing it, but he became too realistic, and people started taking him seriously when everyone thought he was a joke. He could say anything he wanted. He would get out there, and I swear, like, you look at this man, he's all coked up, screaming and yelling in the screen. His face is blood red. Let's all get him, and he's slobbering, and again, nobody really took him seriously, or at least I thought that's what he was like. And then now people are taking him seriously, and here he is getting sued. So,
Well, I think they've been taking him seriously for a very long time. I don't think. I mean, how long is 9/11? What is that? 21 years ago. I mean, I
yeah.
think people. You even had Trump on television last week suggesting that we have never gotten to the bottom of 9/11, which is indicating we don't know for sure the Saudis did it. He said we've never gotten to the bottom of 9/11. That came from the former president. What the hell is that?
I mean, I'm going to say this: consider the source. And I understand that he was the former president, but I mean, when you get people that get into these conspiracy theories, and they're going to believe them their whole life. I have a friend that still believes, and I'm sure some of you do as well, that no one ever landed on the moon, and that there was 8 shooters that took out President JFK. And look, and I'm not saying that there's not a possibility a conspiracy theory is right. But there's a possibility I'm going to win the lottery when I buy a ticket. It's just highly unlikely.
Well, I will say this: if you had a conspiracy theory for the Boston Marathon bombing or Sandy Hook or 9/11, I'm willing to entertain it. But you shouldn't have a conspiracy theory for every single major event that happens. Like, every time something happens, the belief is it couldn't have happened that way. Like, every single one of these things is wrong, and that's where he loses me.
Well, that's why I thought no one, that he wasn't really being taken seriously. Like, that's why I thought it was like, again, like a caricature is the best way I would have described his character. Like, just over the top, nonsensical. It's just nothing's real, right? So the fact that people are taking him that seriously to where they're threatening people, like his audience is, like, threatening people that they've lost their children at like, that's crazy. Like, but we live in a pretty wild world right now. So, like,
My guess is if they don't stop him from communicating to his audience, which I don't think they can stop him, he's probably, no matter how this trial turns out, he's probably going to come back and suggest that some of the way he got treated was wrong. That some of this stuff he'll probably come back and say stuff that'll cause him to get sued again. That's why.
I don't disagree with that. I don't think he's capable of stopping doing what he's doing, and that's where I was like, I think he's made the assertion earlier that he was a really smart guy, and I think he's really entertaining. I don't know if he's smart. Like, I think that I think what's happening to him now is proof that he's not very smart. I think that he's very creative. I think he's very he's a very enthusiastic personality. But if he were intelligent, he wouldn't be making mistakes that get him sued like that. So I don't know if I agree with the intelligence part, but as far as the rest, he's a personality. He's definitely worthy of some attention, but worthy of believing. Yeah, I'm not going to go that far. Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Fair enough. All right, well, I got to move it on, man. I'm on lunch
take
break.
it easy. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you. Catch you on the next one.
Jones. I seen Vixen in the comments ask, who are we talking about? We talking about A. Jones, the conspiracy theorist. I don't want to say his name entirely because TikTok actually considers his name to be a banned phrase. I tried to type his name out to name this live stream, and they wouldn't even let me post it up. I just simply typed in, what do you think of A. Jones? But instead of A, I put his whole name, and I got told that is a banned phrase. And I also tried to do hashtags. And I looked his name up. I looked up Info, the name of his program. It's called Info. None of that. They banned his entire existence on TikTok. So, clearly social media does not like the man. My only point on it is that, and I saw folks in regards to Trump suggesting that 9/11, we have not gotten to the bottom of it, and do you trust the FBI? The problem I have with this stuff is Trump was in control of these organizations. If your job is to be America first, and you're suggesting that we have not gotten to the bottom of who struck us on 9/11, that should be your primary goal the minute you become president. Because if you don't know who hit us, how can you stop it from happening again? So when he got on television and suggested we have never gotten to the bottom of 9/11, the question should have been back to him. You were president. What did you do to assist us in getting to the bottom of 9/11? Because you served for 4 years under the umbrella of America First, and you're telling me we got hit on our soil since the first time since December 1941 when the Japanese did it. We have not had an attack on our soil since then. We had an attack on our soil September 11, 2001. And here it is, 2022, and we don't know who did it after you did 4 years in office? Why didn't you find that out? Why didn't you go straight for that? Because if we don't know who did it, we cannot be sure they won't do it again. So that is a America First failure. But no one's going to hold them accountable for that, so it is what it is. And Vixen has said January 6th was an attack by our own. Oh, yeah, there were no foreigners there that day. So whatever happened on January 6th was clearly perpetrated by Americans. So, yeah, he know who did it, and he is making money from who did, says Pete White. There may be some validity to that because he is money first. I'm going to leave that alone. You guys are coming in hard. Brittany Griner got 9 years in prison. We did discuss that. That is very unfortunate. She is a political prisoner. And under the Biden administration, I don't know what hope there is for Brittany Griner, because President Biden, despite the notion that the Democrats are viewed as being weak militarily, that's what you always hear from the right, my beloved MAG audience never fails to suggest that Trump projected us as a strong country, the world respected us, and under Biden, we're weak militarily. Say what you want about Biden, but he is responsible for the death of more Russians than any president in my lifetime that I can think of, and I'm 50. What other president has given that many damn weapons to a country that is actively using them? If you actually had to list the amount of Russians that have been killed by the Ukrainians that would not have died if the Ukrainians did not have access to the weapons that Biden gave, shit, it would probably be over with already. Ukraine would have probably already been conquered. So President Biden and his weak military appearance is sure kicking the hell out of a lot of Russians. Is there anyone that believes that when Vladimir Putin went into the Ukraine in February, he expected this shit to still be going on in August? Really? No, what they expected is what my MAGA folks are suggesting. Trump is out of office. We got a weak foreign leader now in Biden. Let's go ahead and stake our claim on the Ukraine. And that weak leader, President Joseph R. Biden, went Liam Neeson on their ass. He literally went Liam Neeson on their ass. And they weren't expecting that. And they still aren't expecting it. And now here's Taiwan with Nancy Pelosi going over there and the Chinese threatening to shoot down her plane and all of that. What was her response? Fuck them. Turn on the landing lights. We're coming in for a landing. This is a weak party militarily. The Democrats are weak militarily. How is all this shit happening? How do you have President Biden on television talking about killing the number one Al-Qaeda terrorist and, like I said, sounding like Liam Neeson? I have a particular set of skills. I don't know where you are, but I'm going to find you and I'm going to kill you. And by the way, he didn't stutter. All that dementia shit oozed right out of his head, and he came focused as hell and made it clear the number one American terrorist threat, number one leader of Al Qaeda, bin Laden's very replacement, had been killed by the Biden administration. Remember, MAGA is bragging that Trump didn't get us in any wars. They're now blaming Biden for getting us more toward wars. What happened to the Democratic administration being weak militarily? It doesn't make sense. This dude is killing people. Biden is killing people right in the middle of a dementia crisis. He is smoking motherfuckers. I gotta go. I'm on lunch break. Catch you guys later.